Get to know all your favorite VRChat DJs all in one place. This is VRCDJ Live.
Listen, don't tell Mom that we have our Christmas overlay up past Christmas, because wouldn't you know it, going into this weekend, and literally about 2/3 of the country are going to be going through lots of ice and snow and cold weather. And it's not even just a matter, like, we've got a nice little fireplace over there in the corner. You'll probably see it in a few minutes, but listen, if people are still bundled up in their winter wear, you might as well wear it out. That's what we're talking about here. But welcome on in to VRCDJ Live. I'm Rob Roman, your host, and if you are brand new to the program, 56 episodes deep, you know, we've been in here for quite a while, but let's introduce you to the fact that we talk to all of your favorite DJs. Of course, it's all in one place, and it's not just the DJs within our community. We also talk with community members and VJs and dancers and graphic designers and all sorts of people that help make everything work for our community throughout the entire weekend. I mean, obviously, I would just say the weekend because there's a lot of DJs and a lot of events happening during said weekend, but also too during the weekdays as well. So glad to have you here. It's our time to answer your dining questions, and I'm sure as we carry on in the next couple of months, we'll get a ton of new DJs looking for the answers, looking for new ways of hyping up themselves and getting more involved. And let me tell you something. If you missed out, if you're rewatching this up on YouTube later, you missed out, because our next guest here on the program definitely has been making tons of waves, footsteps, traction, whatever you want to call it here in the scene. He's been in a series of events within the VRChat space. We're talking Shelter, Gathering, Lost, Baptism, Lyoko Star Party, even hosting his own event called Clyde Fest. Has a wide range of skills from performing, filmmaking, world building, and now focusing on promotion. And has also been invited to perform both IRL Offkai and Lyoko events. So please welcome to the VRC DJ Live Studios, ClydeMachine.
That's me. Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody.
Let me tell you, like, just sitting and put together the entire list of all of the things that you have had done, and the fact that there's so many other topics that we want to talk about tonight, especially because there's a lot of things that you're passionate about, and there's a lot of things that you've seen over the past couple of years in here that have just, it's worthy of our time to work and talk about it early on. How do you kind of keep track of all this stuff?
Man, I think part of the trick is that you don't keep track of all of it. Like there was a time back in the day when all of us knew each other. All of the events could literally happen with minimal overlap. You could have the same crowds show up to each one, and it would just roll from one to the next. But there's no way to do that now. Obviously, you know, there's just too much going on. There's too many different crowds. There's too many different corners of the community. There's too many different types of events going on too, like everything from festivals to super drunky late night pop-ups to, you know, more chill events and like movie watching or like, you know, doing like RP communities, that sort of thing. I used to try to keep up with everything as much as I could, and it's just like at some point it literally starts taking over your life, and you're just like, can I get away with not going outside today? Can I leave the mail to check for next week? Can I get away with not eating? You know, for a time it would be like, oh, I wouldn't cook, and then I would get delivery food, and then I just forgot to eat and do the delivery food to begin with. And then it just like starts eating into everything in your life like that. And it's very I started having kind of like pushback, and it obviously like not leave the space, but start to kind of pick out the things of like, all right, there's always going to be like 12 different things I can do on a weekend. I'm only going to have time to do like 2 or 3. Like, who do I need to see? Who do I need to go and support? What things do I need to get like taken care of this weekend that would keep me out of the VR space? It's literally just a matter of like, you have to recognize that you have a budget of time and patience. A lot of folks around us, I feel like, have a great huge bar of stamina that they can spend on all this stuff. I know that's always been the case for me, but sometimes your time is the constraint, sometimes your stamina is the constraint, and you can't do it all. You need to fit in like the stuff that's going to be like the best value of like, am I going to see like the friends that I haven't seen in a while, or like the ones that I, need to chat with or whatever. You have to kind of pick and choose those. And honestly, like the trick is kind of like, in a funny way, it's actually the same way I approach social media, where people used to light me up because I had a thing where they started noticing that on Twitter, I would only follow 150 accounts, and I wouldn't follow anybody, not even a friend that I just met, unless I unfollowed an account. And the reason I did that was because there was a time in my life many years back where Twitter specifically had taken over my time. Like I used to doom scroll the way that most people, do nowadays, with video feeds. I used to just do that on Twitter. So eventually I got rid of the account and all that, and then came back to it because of VR stuff. And I was like, I need to make sure that never controls me again, And I took the same approach there as I take here, where it's like, there's only so much I can engage with. There's stuff I know I'm going to miss, but I just can't. There's just too much going on. So love it and respect it, but I can't be everywhere at once. So I kind of focus in on a few things. I put on the horse blinders, and it makes me a happy sheep.
It's interesting that you say that too, because I'm blaming the cold weather, because again, the cold front's coming in. I don't want to say people have already started to get the cabin fever yet. I know that's probably going to happen next month, and we're leading into totally February soon. But do you think that we're all I feel like we're all kind of tired? Is it because we're trying to kind of maximize our time throughout the day when we are awake? Does it seem abnormal to be doing that now?
I think my honest answer to that is I think a lot of that doesn't actually have as much to do with the VR space as the rest of the world is very stressful. And that's always been true. It just kind of feels like everybody is very aware of each other's stress levels, just hitting an absolute breaking point. And I feel like that's to kind of segue that into a positive thing. I feel like that's probably very much visited upon the VR space, because this is really like our third space. No matter where you are in the world, this is the place that we can go where you're not going to get kicked out after 10 p.m. You don't have to pay for parking or worry that you're going to get towed or any of that bullshit, right? So we bring our very tired selves into this space and try to make something of it and try to be. And try to pursue the dreams that we might not be able to everywhere else, which of course plays out beautifully in the music space. You find people building whole personas, whole followings and everything, whole communities here that were just not possible IRL. So I feel like, especially for this time of year too, like I feel like a lot of people don't find the winter months to be relaxing. Like on the one hand, it probably should be, because, you're spending time with friends and off of work, maybe off of school. And then, you go back to it and it's just like, I could have slept for 36 hours straight and I didn't do it once, So I definitely feel like that's going on. I feel like that does happen. It feels more prevalent year over year, and especially right now, it does kind of feel like people are very much stretched thin in so many dimensions, and you see that in the VR space because we bring our authentic selves. So many of us do, anyway. You're going to see that. There's no way to hide it, and we can't be here if we're being fake. We got to be our real selves. So you're going to see that when people are pushed to their limit, or things are just when life's too much, man. They're going to come here and they're going to plop down on a couch at a movie night and be like,
I never really understand that whole idea. I do come in here from time to time just to kind of see who's on and maybe go to some rave events or even just decompress like everybody else does. But I've never understood that process of going to the Popcorn Palace. Like I've been there a couple times. I'm just sitting there going, so what do we do with this? But I feel like other people are using it to either put on some relaxing video, maybe hang out with some friends and just chat with them, as opposed to just sitting in your chair and being in a VC call on Discord. You're putting on a little bit more of an. Are we breaking this ground? Am I actually learning how to do VR chat for the first time in here? Like I feel like me talking about this out loud, I feel like I'm missing out on so much.
I don't want to tell you, but I think you might have. The XKCD comic of like, congratulations, you're one of the 10,000 people every day that learn something for the first time that everybody else seems to know. Well, you just discovered that there's definitely like cozy hangouts that do
Well,
that,
I
and
just never.
they're not always centered around movies.
I never
you know,
talk
but-
about it because everybody wants to talk about the drinking night thing. So I'm just like, that's my go.
Oh, fair, yeah.
It's not even a matter of I want to talk about it. You know, I would love to come in here and
Mm.
be like, what are your thoughts on hamburgers? See, like, what kind of hamburger do you like? You know,
Mm.
like, can we have a hamburger club? Can we talk about hamburgers at some point in time at the hamburger club? But
Can we?
I
I got a
mean,
hell of a. I have the gourmet burger recipe, Wagyu beef, and all fresh ingredients. I have a very specific recipe, which I will sell to the highest bidder in the chat. You're welcome to start putting in your bids.
well, I just feel
But
like
every
a
time
lot of
somebody comes to visit, I have to make it for them.
a lot of people will be going towards like binging with Babish, and they're just like, well, if Babish took care of it and kind of did it, so maybe you know, I just was feeding into the peanut butter and jelly episode before the stream anyway, just to see what the most gourmet peanut butter and jelly. At the end of the day, you're still doing a peanut butter and jelly, and like, if as long as you enjoy it and that's it, like that's basically it. But at the same time, when do you have time to sit down and enjoy a nice peanut butter and jelly sandwich? You know, especially for ClydeMachine. I mean, you're again busy guy. You're literally eating up every corner of multimedia when it comes to DJing and performing in here. And so like the obvious is that people need to keep picking up on this. You know, you keep pushing some really cool stuff on YouTube. We're going to be talking about in a little while. And we were just kind of mentioning how, you know, being busy and finding enough time for it all. $1 million question, shot in the dark. You know, as new DJs are coming in here and we're constantly pushing the idea of promotion, where do you think that they should be starting with this? You know, I feel like for them to be taking on a carbon copy of what you do is going to be quite a feat for them straight out the gate.
It's definitely a. This approach that I'm doing is, I don't want to say like I originated or anything, but I definitely feel that I have something here that's a bit of a unique approach, and that I wish other VR DJs would do this. And the this, for those who aren't aware, is that every time I go to do a performance, whether that's in front of a big crowd, whether that's, you know, just a little like late night pop up, I'll try to make sure that I don't just have the audio recorded, but I'll have the in-world POV as much as I can. Sometimes that's difficult to do when you have a packed instance and, you know, your computer's running super hot. If you've been on for many hours, you know, you can only turn down your performance settings so much to get a good, you know, stable recording. But having evidence that it happened has just always been one of those things that has made, like, for the longest time, VR shows just weren't a thing for people to like go and find, or rather they were a thing for you to go and find. There just wasn't any like, there wasn't any like obvious funnel to it. There was no PBS documentary. There was no, you know, Virtual Riot bringing his, you know, album launch party into Shelter. There was a time before all of that. And it was kind of one of those like, if only people could see it. Problem is, you have to already be bought in to go to see it. You know, you have to have VRChat installed at the very minimum. So you have to know that VRChat is a place that raves happen and that there are convincing once you get into it, you know. But there's just too many steps. So what I was thinking was like, well, if there's one place that I go to find music and new experiences and stuff, a lot of times it literally is just YouTube. It's just every, you know, if you want to learn something, you go to YouTube in 2026. If you want to find new music, for me, it's literally YouTube. The recommendation algorithm is exceptional at finding things that I'd like to listen to, especially for mixes, which kind of took me for a ride. I was very shocked about that. But I figured like, well, surely I'm not the only person who tries to, you know, develop their worldview further than it is. Even when I'm sitting at home and I'm like, you know, an hour or two away from bed. And I'm not talking, you know, sitting there scrolling TikTok thinking that it's, you know, giving me, you know, self-enrichment or anything. But YouTube has a certain something. I never, you know, like look at shorts or anything, but I'm the type of person that'll sit down and I'll watch video essays. You know, I'll watch 20-minute video essays on economics topics or whatever. Well, I'll also sit down and I'll go and listen to music artists. I will just be sitting there listening to an album start to finish. And that's an activity for me. For the longest time, I thought everybody did that. And one of my coworkers many years back was all just like, is that a thing you do? And it's just like, well, yeah, as opposed to what? And they were like, well, I put on like the radio and I go do laundry. And I'm just like, okay, the radio and you're doing something else, not being an active listener, you know? So like, imagine coming into it like that. That's how you develop your creative self. You learn about the world when you can't otherwise, especially around the pandemic times. I was like, even if I don't want to be a YouTuber or a content creator, I want to have a musical resume of some kind, more than just like the music that I produce, because I do produce music. I rarely release it because that's just it's one of those, like, I get into it when I feel the inspiration, and you just can't push me to make a song if I'm not feeling it. But mixes, man, I can just at the drop of a hat just pull out the decks and go to town. And one of the things I've really loved about what we do in the VR space is that the events, like I was saying, like, they run the gamut. You can have any kind of event you want, whether it's like the knockoff Ultra Festival, versus like literally we just threw a show, or not we, but Daddy Colin, my buddy Stella, threw an event in a backrooms map the other night and invited me to do a late night set while they still had a drinky crowd that wanted to hear some music. And it's like, all of those are hard to explain. They sound like a fever dream when you try to explain that to somebody who isn't in the VR space. And then also at the end tack on I know it sounds weird, but I promise it's cool. You got to try it out. That doesn't work nearly as well as literally just having a channel that's very well curated. If I do say so myself, I'm very careful with how, if the footage is bad, I'm not going to use it. If the mix wasn't good, if the crowd wasn't feeling it, well, I'm not going to put those on there, But if there's something that I feel like was really special about a set, I'm going to make sure that people go to, or have a place that they can go and see it months after it happened, Like Steve, the mitochondria, had the map come out that was many years in the making, that was fully inspired by the Afterlife bar in Cyberpunk 2077, and had a banger DJ event for it. And I was just like, this is super sick. And that's exactly one of those events that tells me, like, this is the sort of thing that I would love for other DJs to be doing, is like, if you have a big map launch and super exciting, and like in that moment, it's just one of those like lightning rod moments of, this is kind of like where everybody is, this is what's happening. And then many years later, you look back on it and you're kind of like, man, that was an interesting time. Man, it was so primitive back then. Things are so much better and different now. Well, it's really hard to have other people appreciate that, especially people that come to support you as an artist later on down the road that didn't get in early, and you have to like tell them about it. Nah, take them to the YouTube channel and be like, you can go and at least experience this POV for it. So if there's one thing that I would love to see any DJ, whether they're storied in their career or not, or like if they're super new into it, is try to build that resume. And as much as you can, don't just like take the audio and stick it on Mixcloud or SoundCloud, because sure, that technically did get there, but realistically, the human brain will engage with experiences that they can see and hear and touch. And the only part of that we can't do is the touch, unless somehow you get phantom sense through your computer screen. but you see what I mean? Like it makes for a really good resume as far as like, here's where we've been. If nothing else, I'm documenting my perspective of VRChat's rave history. So that's my spiel on why I do what I do.
I mean, it might also be kind of important too. I think a lot of beginner DJs, they're kind of focused in on one thing as opposed to a lot of the bigger picture with so many different avenues that you can go down. And when it comes to introductory and doing the DJing first is just, okay, you're mixing one song to the next. That's step one. And then the rest of it is just like, so where else do you want to go? Your genre choices, the friends that you make, the networking. Or in this particular case, I had a professional DJ actually approach me and say, outside of the DJing and the money and the traveling, what do you want to do with this? What do you want to do with the DJing? And like, a lot of people don't have an answer for that, because they do want all of that, but they also don't want all the rest of the hard work that kind of goes with it. And when it comes to what you were saying about putting together a little portfolio about all the things that you have done, is just that too. It's just a matter of like being able to be like, well, this is what we did several years ago. It was good at the time. I don't want to say it's trash now, but it's good at the time. I'm so much better now, but you'll have at least something that you can go off of and say, hey, listen, this is how it was back in the day, and then be able to showcase that and show your progress of where you are now compared to what you wanted to kind of continue on. I'm going to shoot you with a very confusing question with an even more confusing answer,
They're the
because
best kind.
yeah, and like to be fair too, like the reason being is like as you were saying, it's about an experience. It's about showcasing some of the things that you can do in here as opposed to just like putting on the radio and like you have a visual representation of it. In a time where people are looking on YouTube exclusively for VTubers, and the fact that we aren't technically VTubers, but I feel like for the commoner, the common user, the common whoever, they think of us as a virtual tuber. Do you think that we'll ever try to be able to break that wall or feel confident that we do provide that sort of itch when it comes to, or that scratch when it comes to showcasing what you do with multimedia comparable to like, because I'm sure there's a way to filter that, right? I feel like a lot of people that do VR chat also consider themselves VTubers, but you also have VTubers that come into VR chat to do the VTubing.
Yeah.
Do you think that we'll ever be able to try to break down that wall for the common listener?
I'd say that is the $64,000 question about how artists specifically from a VTuber angle, which myself, I actually do view that if you use an avatar, whether it's one that was very involved or like, doing like the live 2D thing, or if you do what we do here, I view that it's more of like a, like you were saying, like it is all to me VTubing in an aspect if you're performing, right? Because you're not using your flesh face. So there is a certain like, okay, well, when you put on an avatar, you didn't just slap it on, you chose it for a reason. And that to me is kind of where the VTubing aspect starts is, my view of VTubing, I've been a big fan of VTubers for quite some time, and while I'm not technically like the target demographic, like I don't do like Offkai is the only thing that I've ever participated in where I was like getting familiar with how VTuber communities really work and how they operate. And there's a lot of those like they are a community. It's a full culture on its own. The conventional like VTuber experience where like there's a lot of things that I like didn't get. So I was very much like, oh wow, this is like super interesting. But I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm almost like here to document it more than be a participant. I was very much like, wow, I didn't know how much I didn't know about this. This is super sick. Like I love learning about this stuff. So in that way, I feel that there's different itches that it scratches depending on how it's approached. And I think that what we're doing, it's just scratching a different itch, but it is the same thing. So to answer your question of like, will that ever be a barrier that can simply be invisible rather than a barrier that needs to be crossed? And I really like I joked like a year or two ago, being like, can a VR DJ make it to IRL bookings just purely off of what they've been doing in VR? Find out this year. As I proceeded to spend the year not doing IRL shows unless they were booked by VR buddies, basically. So like that's I feel like there is I don't even know that there's going to be a future where that's a barrier that doesn't exist. I think what might happen instead though is that like we end up having more events that are specifically I guess you could say like avatar friendly, where they're more like portal events, or more like the like VTubers will play IRL shows where they'll stream in their set, right? I think we'll probably have a lot more of those just happening at like your local nightclub and even like festival stages. But I don't know that ever is really going to go away, because you're gonna have the problem of squares, and I bucket people into two buckets. Okay, there's squares, and you know exactly the kind of people I'm talking about. I'm talking about like the source of the definition of coworker music, if you've heard of that. Literal like corporate people. They want the family. They want to have the wife and kids. They're not. They don't come from a gamer background, or if they did, they very much bury that. They're squares, man. They're never gonna get us. And then there's the rest of us. Like we get us, they don't get us, and we don't get them, kind of thing. I think that'll always be a separation.
I mean, even with the squares, they're probably still considering all video game consoles to be a Nintendo.
Oh, that's true too. I was gonna mention too. Like they're the kind of people that I feel like, and I'm not like trying to boil them down necessarily, but more of like my understanding of like I have coworkers that are squares. Absolutely, I've always had coworkers that are squares. So there's a separation that I keep between everything that I do here and what I do there. And there's a oh no, this is what it looks like when he loses his train of thought. Oh. Oh, the kind of people that would not understand that yes, it's a video game. However, well, a video game in so much as it's built in Unity and it's deployed through hardware that we have to use, and you do require a gaming-ish computer to be able to run it, or a gaming phone. But it is a social platform through and through. Like I said, it's a third place in a way that even a non-gamer could get. It's what the metaverse from Meta's fame or infamy was meant to be in a way. It's just like that one was pursued in a very like dictating how it's meant to be rather than letting it grow organically. Whereas here, there are very few, even today, there are very few limitations of what we can do, and as a result, like it's just flourished into whatever crazy fever dream this stuff is. And I feel like there's a certain kind of person that gets it. There's the people that get it and the people that don't. And I'm going to say like my most, if I had a slogan, man, well, if I had a slogan, it would be hashtag free Clyde. But if I had another slogan, it would be that the people in VR that get it are the ones that can understand a situation in which you could cry in a headset, and that makes perfect sense. If I tell you, which I actually had when way back in the day, I had an ex-girlfriend who didn't get the VR stuff, and I had played Shelter for the first time, and I was like, all my friends were here. That was so amazing, and I could have never dreamed of having a room packed out with people just so excited to see me playing music. I gave up on those dreams so long before that, because like back in the day, I wanted to do the DJ thing. I wanted to be the producer. I wanted to be buddy with Skrillex. I wanted to get the Kill the Noise cosign. I wanted all that, I wanted to be touring. I wanted to have the like, oh, I gave up alcohol because I kept hitting the after parties and it got to messing with my tour life, and now I have a better, I wanted to do that whole journey. Back then, my aspirations were, in my view nowadays, pretty small. But man, when those are your role models, that's what you look up to. And I wanted that life, and I had to give it up because, well, life was showing me very clearly that where I grew up, the background that I had, everything was pushing me towards a lot more of the conventional. Like, yeah, I got into the corporate world, figured out how to survive in the urban jungle, and made his gains that way. And I made that work, and it's worked out beautifully in that regard. But like back in the day, I never wanted to give up those dreams, and I always held that little seed, So fast forward to, what was it, 2021, I think, and Tony invites me to play Shelter, and I played that. I was crying in the headset after that. And like I went to tell her about it because I was just so moved. I was just like, I did not expect I was going to do that. And she was literally like, why? Because she didn't understand. And I had her in the headset once or twice, and she couldn't get it because of the motion sickness and just kind of being a square. But like there's a certain something of like, there's the kind of person that understands how that's possible and how that literally is like, no, I get it. Like I know how you can have your friends surround you, fulfill your dream, and maybe in a funny way, because I gotta look like this to do it. But I gotta have the microwave on the face to do it. But if that's how you get to achieving your dreams, then that's how it happens. Life has a funny way of working out in the ways that you least expect. But you gotta you gotta appreciate that there's always going to be the people that just aren't going to get that you can tell them until you're blue in the face, but you're always going to sound like you're off a crack.
All of that it's so difficult too, because even this past Saturday, I ended up doing an IRL event with a bunch of people that have they've heard of virtual reality, but they don't have enough time or interest in it to want to come in to be able to experience it. Now, the thing about the DJing IRL is when you have something, it's automatically good. Like every other promoter or every other DJ out there will just say, you will be playing for empty rooms and empty crowds for such a long time. before you start, really selling tickets, or you'll just be support for another DJ. And like, that's in the business, that's how you're supposed to do it, especially even in here too, that occasionally, even though I would only assume that everybody in here wants to have that flexibility of genre, or genre flexibility of understanding different genres and understanding cool new music and stuff like that, that not everybody's going to be at the event or at the place that you want them to be for you to succeed like that. Now, to be able to explain to someone who has zero idea, and again, even though you say that your girlfriend is a square, or ex-girlfriend, or whoever it was at the time,
very long time ago, ex-girlfriend. I'm in a much better place now.
I will say that, like, everyone in every relationship at any time has gone through that too. I don't think any particular couple can match the other person's interests 100%. Unless they enjoy it themselves. They will support the idea. They will be supportive of you and try to understand it, but not at 100%. So when it comes down to events like Shelter, and I think that's the reason why there's such a big interest for a lot of DJs in here to do Shelter itself. They got 22,000 members. Tony, he puts together all these big events, and he's kind of like a role model. He's a motivator. He's a literal
He is a
influence.
Super role model.
Yeah.
I will stand that dude to the end of time.
He
He's
influences
a
lot of people to do a lot of different things in here, including chasing your passions. And being able to crush that goal and be able to do that and live the dream is such a highlight. And that's the thing that I think a lot of outside people, a lot of outside record companies or promoters or even clubs or anything like that can't understand the amount of energy and passion that goes into it, while also literally vibing with people that vibe with you and your music stylings. I forgot who I was talking to, but they were saying that it's not even a matter of watching the DJ anymore. It's about feeding the energy and the vibe of the music that they are performing to match where you are at as well. And again, you can complain in here if you don't like the music, but you can also leave to go to another thing and totally feel the vibe of what you're feeling right now. But the people that are a part of that, I guess that's partially the reason why they don't want the DJ to talk all of the time, is because they're trying to match that vibe, and they're trying to kind of, soak in the rays of the entire environment. But being able to explain that to a lot of people, especially as we're moving forward, might be a dime a dozen. As you mentioned, again, your ex-partner was susceptible to motion sickness. And I think that's kind of the most common response that we get from anybody, that if you say virtual reality, I would only assume that like one of their relatives sat them down on the couch some Christmas morning with a VR headset and say, "Hey, check out this roller coaster simulator. I hope you're ready." And then they're also there with a bucket of water throwing it on your face. "Oh, splash time."
That's why parents hate VR so much, is their first time into it usually is like they bought this thing for their kid. Their kid's so excited about it. They want to show this cool new thing. And then they put the headset on them and they just freak out like the first time, people saw a train coming at them on the silver screen and they ran out the theater, it's like that sort of thing.
But also too, like you were explaining how that kind of it changed your reality of the things, the goals that you wanted to do. And it's a little early to hit that question, but we're gonna hit it because we're here right now.
We hit it.
Honestly though, because like again, it's still too early in the year. Obviously, we're in the last week of January. February's coming up. There's gonna be a lot of events. There's gonna be a lot of lovey Valentine's Day events happening too. I'm sure a lot of people are getting amped up for it. Followed by like some St. Patty's Day stuff and springtime stuff. But you can't imagine what's going on in the brain of someone who during Christmas time got their Flex 4 and their friend is like, do it. You seem to have passions and you seem to be, how you want to play like James Hype or John Summit or Dom Dalla, the most popular people right now. But so in your mind, and again, we'll hit the obvious question in a little bit, but like when you were trying to understand that concept, was it because it was too much to do that dissuaded you to continue with those passions? Or when you learned your version of how you wanted to perform, that's how things got easier.
Oh, that's wow. Leading the witness a little bit there, but the way that you ended that is actually exactly how that worked out. And the reality was the idea that I had of like what success looked like in terms of like me being happy, me being self-actualized and doing the things that I want to do, spending my time as I want. It was very incompatible with the realities of like where the music scene was going, where the talent was pulled up from in terms of making it as, you know, a touring artist and all of that. And definitely incompatible with how I work, especially creatively, which is why it turned into one of those, like, I literally just put it up on a shelf. I had a little Mix Track Pro, one of those little baby size controllers. And I got it because when I first got into music production, I was all just like, I want to do the dubstep thing. How do you perform this? Because I used to be in rock bands a lot. I was in and out of so many bands. I have a hell of a guitar collection. And I got out of that to do music production. And I was just like, how do you actually go and perform this shit? Because I could just hit play, or I could like recreate some of the sounds live in Cubase on a stage. But I'm like, that doesn't seem like people do that. So I go and look, and it's like, oh, it's DJing. And then I quickly found out that DJing itself is an art in addition to production. That was so confusing to me, and I genuinely hated it. I actually hated the idea that I had to go and DJ. I was like, I would play pre-records if I could get away with it. You know, I was that kind of kid. And I think it was like 14 years ago that I started DJing because of that. Now I kept with it for a little bit. I got some IRL bookings, like, you know, Local Buzz and all that. Did some opening slots for a couple of shows here and there, and then my career started taking off for everything but music. And I was just like, okay, well, this is just going to fund that. And then, you know, some years later, I was getting real serious into the career stuff, and I was like, I'm finding these are kind of like they're against the grain about each other. I need to figure out like how these are going to fit. And then it kind of turned into, instead of trying to plan like an EP release every year, it was like, maybe I'll make a song every year. And then it was just like, I sometimes wonder why I have Ableton installed on this computer. I could just save the space. You know what I mean? But I never got rid of any of that stuff. Coming to the pandemic, I started getting into like trying to do the live stream DJ thing, because I was like, well, now I have plenty of time to balance out my interests, and it's been so many years. This was back in literally the start of 2020, so basically right at the peak. Everything gets shut down. I had replaced my DJ controller because I was just like, well, if I'm going to like have fun with it, I want some nice equipment. So I think that's how that went. But there was some like refreshing of my equipment, and then I started getting into it again. And then the VR thing hit, found my way into the space, and started getting bookings for VR shows here and there. And they were literally just like friend pop-ups. We used to play in this place that Sashimi Fugu, a world creator from way back in the day. I hope they're still in the space. I haven't linked up with them in a very, very long time, but they had this adorable art style, very, very talented artists, where they had this very specific and adorable art style that came through in their worlds. The one that we kept going back to was called Shark Hut, which was like, it was like a play off of their avatar was just a cute little low poly character, and then they had a little shark as a hat. And it was like basically like a sort of like, not like mistranslation, but like a mispronunciation of that, but then turned into like hut and hat are two different words. So it turned into literally like a giant shark, a low poly shark, like really cute. A really, really bright, cute world that was super easy on the frame, so anybody could get in, because, you know, back in 2020, 2021, everything was so laggy and rough. Even if everybody's avatars were like just a little bit poor, you know, like everybody was super like, yeah, if we can get into a world that's very lightweight to run, we can run these shows, you know, just have these little pop-ups, and it doesn't have to be anything big, and anybody can get in, right? So I start doing those, I called it the pop-up circuit back then. And that used to be the way to get into shows. Was if we didn't know who you were, it's because you weren't hanging out at the pop-ups and you weren't playing. So like you had to go and play first to get our attention, to turn into like, okay, I'm going to put your name in here for like, I know the club owner over here, I'm going to, you know, pass your name along kind of thing. And then, you know, grow from there. And like all of these, if we step back from all of that, like all of this crazy fever dream stuff that we have in VR is like, you can't plan for that ahead, really. These kind of like sort of black swan events of like, I didn't know that VR was going to be the gateway into me pursuing my music dreams, but also in redefining the music dreams. And I would say that like, I would have given up the Clyde name. Well, I mean, Clyde's my actual name, but I would have given up the ClydeMachine alias. I would have given up the production. I would have given up the controller. I would have totally tossed off of this stuff if it wasn't for finding a way to make it work in VR. And I have so much of my life to thank for that. And I don't just mean for the music. I mean, when that shifted my whole perspective, my whole like, oh, my life can actually have this music stuff and it doesn't have to be, oh, if it's not making you money, you can't do it. You must go back to, all work, no play. Like when I realized that that could be just fine and I could actually kind of lead this, for better or worse, it is a full-on dual life. Like I've been able to do it very successfully and I'm really happy with it. For as stressful as it is, I really enjoy it. But then it started like turning into like, okay, well, if this aspect of my life that was so huge and then became so close to just being tossed in the abyss, and now it's once again part of my life in a very big way, if that could shift so dramatically, the rest of my life probably is too. Like is probably like at in a position of it's possible that it could change. I could have been wrong about how I planned out my life, and I changed so many things. I got out of an exceptionally poor relationship, straightened out my home life, straightened out my diet. I learned how to cook. That might sound like a small thing, but like I had just put it off on some like kind of boyish thing, outlook on life of being like, I'll just find a way to not ever do that. And it was kind of just like, no, I'm gonna populate my kitchen with gear. I consulted people that I know, that I respect, that have, an extensive culinary background, to be like, look, I need to fix my life. And part of that is I need to just grow the fuck up, to be honest. And one of those was like, I need to figure out how to cook. I need to get all the right tooling. And, I need to sort out this, and this about my life. And just like the more I started like taking that sort of like mental model of, I was so wrong about my music stuff and was so taken aback by how magical, informative, and life-changing all the VR stuff has been. Surely I'm wrong about other stuff and it can be so much better. And I feel like that's kind of culminated in something that's made me literally the happiest sheep ever to graze this pasture that we call Earth, in that I met Fairy, who is my my fiance. I met her in VR this month last year, and I spent all of last year finding out how much the human body could stand being on planes, going from where I live to where she lives and back, and building that relationship and building out this life together has just been such a like, I'm so glad I was wrong kind of moment. I was so wrong about my life up until that point, up until last year. I was so wrong about so many things about my work or like my home life and everything. In a way it's scary because there's so much that that can change when you realize life is your oyster, but you also like it might not be like an oyster pearl that you can go and get, right? Sometimes it needs to come to you. And very long-winded answer, and it was very meandering, but there's a very strong mental model that came from that experience that I feel like is like, not everybody in the space is going to get to that point. I feel like you have to be a total VR, like full dive nerd like us to do that, and not everybody's going to do that. People will do just fine getting into the music space, either running events, being a performer, whatever, without having to go that crazy, being like, my life just turned into a totally like blank slate and everything's different now. People 10 years ago would not recognize me today kind of thing. But for the rest of us, that was necessary. That was necessary to keep doing our creative stuff. So that's the answer to that.
All of that makes sense, and even though it does sound like a long-winded answer, it shapes up how much and how knowledgeable you are, and how wise you've become in the past couple of years, especially being able to dabble into that sort of thing. The way I see it in VRChat is, You either have gone to college or you haven't. And when you haven't gone to college, you won't realize what all the parties look like in college, right? Like you can go to
True.
college and
Yeah.
you can study and you know get a BA or get a master's or PhD or whatever, and have a specific study. But man, oh man, are there parties? And there's like there's fraternities and you can rush those, and there's so many activities. And then at the same time, not only are you becoming friends with your future colleagues, but you're also learning what it's like to party and find your limit on how much you can party. For the people that don't go to college, it's tough, and they need a different outlet because they won't get to experience that unless it's a birthday party or a funeral or a wedding or some sort of a family style event. Not saying that they're turning into squares, but I feel like most of the time when you are in virtual reality space and you're that young, you're using this space socially as if it were to be a college party where you will be either A, be able to learn your limit, B, learn what relations are like, C, be able to explore your avenues of skills of performance if you want to be a DJ or a club owner or whatever, because you're young and you still can do that sort of thing. And then D, you don't even have to travel. All your traveling is done in here. It's all electronically, which is just absolutely fantastic. So when it comes to understanding lifestyle and understanding your role in all of this, I feel like there are the steps. And again, you could be old man Clyde and say, "Oh, you won't know until you're older." But at the same time, too, like it's true. When the people are in here, they have the energy, they have the passion, they're going to continue doing what they want to do, and try to figure out from their side why it doesn't work. But at the same time, not why it doesn't work is how they can push it so that way it can work while you're funding it. And the way that you were explaining it too, the fact of like, not everybody just needs to quit cold turkey and just be like, I'm adulting now. Nobody wants to do that because everyone's afraid to do that. But at the same time, you are absolutely right. And I don't want to also sit here and say people need to learn from that, or people need to actually keep that, not even in the back of their mind, but bring it up front and say, this is our top 3 things of what we need to work on. Is if you have a full-time job or career, or you're working, that can fund the things, all the hobbies and stuff that you want to do. People have a misconception of becoming an adult, especially when you want to do all the cool stuff. They have a misconception of being like, well, I can't do anything cool because I have responsibilities. No, you can do fun things. Yeah, you can have a good time and have your responsibilities, but being able to, while you're not hyper focusing on 100% on that, and which I'm going to lead you on to the next question too. But it's just the thing of like, you need to have the funds to be able to do something like that. I think a lot of people, we never want to talk about it because we know that there can be successes in here. We know that there's population in here and there's popularity in here when it comes to performing in here. But at the same time, the limelight is so deceiving in here because when you come in to perform, as you've said, you had this major life event in Shelter that you were like, oh man, I can't believe I performed this. But being able to showcase that as like your leading achievement for the year, I mean, now you're going to have to sit and question as a self-employed DJ how you're supposed to one-up it next year. You're going to do another Shelter show and it's going to be twice as big as what you did before? I'm not sure about that, bro.
Yeah,
but
there's a ceiling, or at least at that time that was the ceiling as far as like what we in the space could aspire to, as far as like if you're trying to get eyeballs on you, if you're trying to grow, like that was about as high as you could go because, well, it was still a fledgling scene. It was so new. I could count on literally 2 hands how many clubs were active and running at that time, whether new or established. But I do have to say to something that you touched on there. My experience, I feel, is highly unique and was in the way of that should stay an outlier. Nobody should have to let their life fall apart so much on the outside that they ran to VR for a total escapist, experience. And I will say that like that definitely was a testament to my own failings of not getting my life sorted out. And I had a lot of like lucky things work out. I'll tell a piece of that story that I think I skated over there that a lot of people don't know this, but when I was really getting full dive into VR, the pandemic, of course, was kind of changing my priorities. And when I was getting into VR and making friends that I didn't like, I had coworkers for friends. But when I say that, I mean like friends, like they're really just acquaintances that you can have a drink with at a happy hour, but after 2.5 drinks, they're ready to go kind of thing. And you're just like, I was about to tell you, like my life story and stuff, There are people that they'll never get closer than this, right? But friends, they'll literally like they'll intermesh their life with you, and you can just not. I don't think you can have that with people that you met through work, or at least not the experience that I was having. But in VR, you meet people so much faster than you do anywhere else, because again, there's kind of like that selection bias of sorts where we kind of get it. Like if I saw you at a party, I might not approach you, but since we've been hanging out here, I literally would go up to you and be like, hey, I saw you on whatever social thing. Like, I think you and I like kick it kind of like in the same friend group and just haven't spoken. It's so much easier to approach each other like that. But in having that experience, I went and was developing that mental model that I mentioned of like, I'm starting to understand that I might have been really wrong about how I've approached my life so far. I think I might need to do something a little bit crazy and just outright quit my job and just stay in the headset as much as I possibly can until like my body rejected it. And I was able to do that for, again, very lucky reasons. You can't just go and do that unless you're sitting on a serious nest egg. And if you don't know what a nest egg is, like that tells you that you're probably not at that point that you can do that. But I also wanted to like kind of highlight that this is not like, that's not like a success story though. You're not trying to get to that point where you can totally no life it into the headset. The success story is that you find a way that you can have your career, like whatever wins you the bread, balance out and especially support and give a foundation to your creative endeavors. If you can't get those to work, you're always going to be jumping back and forth like this rather than building something up. You want to be building it up, especially creative stuff. There is something that many years ago, there was a little known dubstep producer named Must Die, who I thankfully have gotten to meet him. He's always been a class act. He's always been a fantastic person. As far as I've ever seen of his stuff, I was a huge diehard fan of him way back in the day. And one time when I was getting really into the producer stuff and I was getting frustrated with in my first year, I wasn't blowing up. And I just messaged him on a whim being like, he's a role model for the kind of producer life I want to do. He's making it. He's starting to get tour bookings and all that. And maybe he'll message me back. I don't know. I was much younger. But I don't remember what my question was. It was just some meandering, how do I make this happen? And he told me something that really put my view into perspective from then forward about creatives, is that the only thing that the people who the ones that are getting the bookings, they're already making it, their names are in the lights all the time and everything, they've got it established, they look like they got it together. The thing that they have over you is that they got time in the game. Persistence is the thing that makes your creative pursuit, I don't want to say career, but pursuit, whatever it is that persistence and that consistency. You need to keep that going. And I promise you, if you have a banger series of shows in VR, which happens to a lot of us. I've seen a few names I won't mention here because I don't know them personally, but I've watched their careers develop a little bit, and I always think of them whenever I'm a little bit worried about okay, new blood of VRChat, raves. Who's going to make it? Who's going to make their mark on this space? Who's going to take it and elevate it to the next level? And the first thing that I think about in terms of those who aren't going to make it is I try to picture all right, well, who is obviously running their savings out to do all of this? Who is not developing themselves outside of their, art in this space, that are going to absolutely disappear in 12 months time, which is a really sad story, but it does happen if you don't plan the right way about how you're going to balance your life with your VR stuff, your creative stuff with your, responsible stuff. You literally need to find a way to have them feed into each other. Or at least one way, your creative stuff doesn't have to go back to your work stuff. If you want to keep that life separate, that's totally fine. But like you were saying, like if you have a really fantastic experience in a series of VR shows, the highest you can ever get here is that you play for yet another popular club in that stretch of time, in that snapshot of time, because that's always changing. There's always new clubs popping up. There's old ones dying. There's always somewhere new for you to play, but there's always going to be a limited number of people you can fit into that virtual box to see you and be impressed with what you did and remember your name and want to follow you. And the thing that all of us are trying to sort out when we're playing these shows is trying to figure out how to keep all of this machine alive and make it bigger. We want this to be a flywheel, so like it gets larger, you get more talent in, more fun for everybody, more storied community and all of that. You can't do that if you haven't set yourself up so that you have housing next year, or like you have a job that you can actually stand being in for, another year. If you don't have the longevity with what you're doing, I'm not saying you got to stay in your current job, but if your plan is to just give up on your job and then try to like full send it VR, well, how much higher can it go? Like, what's the lofty aspiration you're trying to get to? Like, where's the money coming in? Because I can promise you, ain't nobody in this space making like banger dollars off of VR DJ stuff. We do it for the fucking passion. And I will take that to my grave. Like, that's my flag's on this hill and I'm going to die on it kind of thing. Like, that's, you have to be in it for the passion, and it's going to be a money sink. I'll tell you like this in a funny way. It actually kind of ties into the motorsports, like racing cars. There's a very famous saying that if you want to make a small fortune racing, how would you do it? What do you think the line is? If you wanted to make a small fortune racing, how would you do it?
Oh, you asking me like on the show?
Yeah, you on the show.
Very rare that my guest asks me questions on the show, but
there it is, the Uno reverse card. I told you.
Oh man, no, I don't know anything about racing besides look, pretty car. Oh look, it's the Hatsune Miku car. It must go fast.
Hey, there you go.
I mean, how do you make money on racing? Is that what you're saying? With very little effort? Is that what you're saying?
I was yanking your chain there. The thing about racing, the best way to make a small fortune racing is to start with a big fortune. Because there ain't money in it. Like, obviously, like F1 drivers, like they're having a crazy, like, media storm, over the last so many years. They're doing really great. But it's kind of like music, right? Unless you're literally like household name performer, right? You're just doing all right. And with the with the VR space, it's kind of the same thing. Is like, if you want to race, you're paying to play. There ain't no way. You're like, nobody's paying for you to get there. When you got sponsors, it's because you're trying to get discounts on the tires that you need to replace every 2 races, because you're cooking those things. Like, you already see how that sort of thing adds up. Just imagine it goes for every aspect of getting involved in motorsports. That's basically how it is in the VR space. Is like, we're all paying to play here. This is the most expensive free game you're ever going to download. And when that comes to DJing, it gets even worse. You said FLX4. Well, I have an S4. My buddies, they've got like DJ 1000s. I know somebody who shall remain nameless that bought, day that they launched, CDJ 3000s. And I was just like, you spent how much on what? Mm-hmm. Like, that's the future you need to expect. Like, when it comes to, like, if you're a new VR DJ and you want to make it in the space, dive into the passion, full send the passion, but you got to balance that with the rest of your life. Because let me tell you, like, it's a fantastic space. It's a huge space for sure, but it does have a ceiling. And when you come away from it, you better be happy that the thing that you come away with is your artistry gets better, you get good practice, and you get a hell of an ego stroking, right? But this is all a pie eating contest, because the prize for winning a pie eating contest is more pie. That's what the VR DJ space is. And that's not to like downplay it either. Like, that's why we're here. If you're here for anything other than that, like if you're not here for the passion to develop yourself as an artist and carve your niche out, make your footprint, make your mark, and leave a legacy of sorts, then you're probably here for something that doesn't exist. Like, check yourself. What's your artistic vision answer that question, you'll know whether you got a future in VR.
So I'm going to double down on that too, just because, you know, we are in the industry of learning and trying to figure out where we want to go in the future. If we want to go ahead and bridge the gap, let's just say like it's the hard love that we need to accept in virtual reality, is that we're performing in here to get better practice, to get better visuals and get better promotion, just the way that ClydeMachine does it. You know, just being able to post stuff on YouTube, on TikTok, everywhere, just so people can see it. Where do you think would be the next steps to try to bridge the gap for someone who is getting hungry to get out of here and go for the larger pie in this case?
That's an interesting question. I mean, like I think a lot of the like conventional wisdom over like figure out who is making moves in your space. Because like, I mean, it's who was it? Wiz Khalifa. Like if you damn, terrible time for me to forget my rap lyrics. But like, if you're trying to make it, you got to know your lane. You got to know who's around you. You got to know like how far away they are in terms of like, well, are you putting yourself off into the corner? Are you a wallflower when you go to events, or are you talking with people? Like if there's networking opportunities, are you taking those? If you're not, if you scoff at that idea, that means that you're not in those rooms, which means you need to find a way to get in those rooms. And to be honest, it's actually not all that hard. You just got to be a go-getter. You just got to have that ambition and go do the thing. And that oftentimes does start with, thankfully, you know, something you can control, which is your own confidence over your artistry, which comes from doing a lot of things that you feel are good, finding out that they're actually kind of cringe because, well, you just started, so you're doing a lot of mistakes that you're not even aware of. You hone your craft, you get good. That way you've gone through enough of those like embarrassing moments of like having a flub on stage, you train art to transition, and then you realize people are actually pretty forgiving about that as long as you like don't ball up in a corner and cry about it. You keep the vibe going, you know? If you can save it, then you can deal with anything. And then you keep developing as an artist. You get to a point where you know you have something, you have a brand of sorts, you know, and I don't mean like a logo necessarily, but literally like you have a, like if I go to DJ or to tell somebody that I DJ, they're going to ask, what kind of music do you play? Where do you play? Who likes your stuff? Like if you don't know any of the answers to those questions, you're probably just pretty early on. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just means you need to go get in front of eyeballs, get in front of ears, you know, pop-ups, whatever, you know, drinking nights, whatever. And what you do is you get yourself to a point where you don't hate your own work, you know? Like you look forward to the times that you can get on a stage and perform for people because you know that somebody's going to like what you did. And then at that point, it becomes a lot easier for you to take what you've built to networking events or talking with other people in the space. And when I say space, I mean like, you know, anything that isn't VR, because you do want to take it elsewhere. You want to cultivate it. You know, cross-pollination is really healthy for creative pursuits. That's why I relate, you know, VR stuff to motorsport stuff, because I have a love of both. They like it's one of those like I didn't intend for there to be a link, but well, you go and try it and then you realize, oh yeah, this isn't all that different, is it? If you look at it the right way, it's very related. Well, you got to get out of the room, you got to get out of the headset every now and then to go and like pursue those opportunities. And man, you got to find the uncomfortable social situations to put yourself in of like, I've never gone to a club before, especially not by myself. Well, go with a friend or just say, fuck it, show up. Ain't nobody looking at you. If you're just by yourself, they ain't looking at you. So like, just go experience, you know, just try it out. See how that works. And then from there, it's, you know, make sure your social game is good, because people do want to see what you're up to if you brought something interesting. And, you know, you talk to somebody once, that's a flash in the pan. If you talk to them, you get their socials, you know, you follow them for, you know, a little bit, and then you see that they're playing shows or like they're putting on an event, you go kick it with them, and well, that turns into a budding thing. Maybe you actually like get to be friends with them rather than trying to like use them or something. Ideally, that's the case. You want to be friendly and support the people in your space, whether that's your local scene or in VR or whatever. I gave up on doing like the IRL stuff. I don't think there's a lot of reason for me to try to bring like stuff to my like local space all that much. I think there's people that do that a lot better and will take it a lot further than I would. So I just full dive into the VR aspects of things, and I try to platform other artists here as much as I can. So that's Yeah, basically just don't expect that VR stuff is going to magically be like, oh, I'm going to do something crazy IRL. Like way back in the day, they used to tell us in the band, if you ain't selling out shows in your hometown, why the hell would anybody do that one town over? And that always stuck with me, being like, oh, I actually did have that idea of like, these people just don't get our music. Maybe if we go 2 or 3 towns over, they'll get it. And it's like, to an extent, there can be some truth to that. But if you ain't got buzz here, you ain't going to get buzz there. If you ain't got buzz, you ain't getting shows. That's how that works.
I gotta say, it is the most interesting to hear your opinions on all of this. Out of all the guests that we've had on this program, I feel like you have had some of the best real experiences that you can provide for the community in here, because I feel like you hear it from time to time. I hear it from time to time. We go to different events, we go to different, and everybody has their own version of success and their own version of where they want to go in the year or a certain period of time. I know, like you were saying, most of these people, they're popular now, but where are they going to be within 12 months? And that resonates very deeply with a lot of different people. And I'm not just going to sit here and say, hey, that resonates with me as well, because I've had my own personal business with some big sharks, some big people in the game. And when someone introduces a brand new person on the scene being like, hey, it's Rob, he's the hottest thing right now, you should be listening to him, they're just like, yeah, sure. But then literally a year later, they're just like, are we still having this conversation? Like, this guy is still here. Okay, well, I guess if he's still here, then it must mean something. But it's the hard truths and it's the hard love that that you put on the table that not everybody in virtual reality can experience or wants to experience, because they're just like, no, I'm just going to get famous right away. Social media is going to be able to get that for me. Or, you have no idea how many followers I have on TikTok because of a thing. Or, but we've all kind of came to learn that TikTok has been dead twice and people were still like freaking out about it. But at the same time, like your livelihood shouldn't just be on TikTok. It's got to be a good mess of things. I do want to rack your brain a little bit. As we carry on. It's VRCDJLIVE. We're sitting here with ClydeMachine and live program. So anybody in chat that wants to ask your questions about DJing or anything, we're going to get into motorsports. If you're into motorsports, I know I like, vroom vroom, car go fast. NASCAR does lap, on the left track doing the thing.
Yo, there's a question in chat. Sorry, I just saw the question. I'll read it out. It just says Wedgie. I wonder what that's about.
Would you Wedgie? You get to supply your own answer to that. I don't even have to break it down.
Chat, I don't think he saw it. Play like that didn't happen.
It's either someone saw that you have a wedgie, or you gave a wedgie, or how you feel after a wedgie. It's just wedgie.
I might have promised the chat that if they come through and watch tonight, that I would give you a wedgie when you least expect it on the show.
Oh, you were gonna give me a wedgie during the show,
right?
Okay.
Because I'm secretly a bully. That's the piece that people don't really know. That was the dark, the dark side of Clyde was going to come out on the show. That was
so we were expecting you, because you're gonna play the Uno card again. I'm surprised they don't just call you Clyde Uno.
Uno machine.
Yeah, the Uno machine. Because the fact you're just like, well, I got all this experience with DJing, and then at the end of the show you could have just been like, I could have been lying. That was all a lie. You do what you want. And it's like, well, we just wasted 2 hours over a lie.
Hold on. I lost my page on the script that I had somebody write for me. This cost a lot of money on Fiverr.
Yes. Listen, we had to save on paper, so we had to double print it. Well, obviously, we'll get back into that question. You'll have to find out in an hour whether or not I get a wedgie. But I want to get back to the original question, because you were saying that you kind of have to be a go-getter in the scene, and kind of focusing on a lot of the new DJs coming in here, and they're going to be trying their best. How does ClydeMachine go get? What are you doing to get to go? Currently,
what do I do to get to go?
Like, if you're gonna go get it right now, what are you go getting in 2026?
I assume you're asking more about the process than the goal itself, like not necessarily like what, unless you want to know what I'm aspiring to.
No, well, that's kind of where I'm getting at is like we've talked about all the different
Mm.
things that you have skill in, the stuff that you have done. We are going to lead into the hobbies and the stuff that you do like to do. But again, you know how to do filmmaking, you know how to do producing, you know how to DJ, you know about a bit about motorsports. You're a comedian, haha. So you know how to do the funny. You could be a content creator, you know, in a world where you have to be juggling everything. What in 2026 are you reaching for out of all this?
That I can answer very cleanly, actually, and that relates nicely to the what we're kind of talking about with like the making of a YouTube channel and trying to like give people another perspective into VR, especially like for people that just could get into VR if they knew that it was here. That's something that I found that I'm really enjoying working on, and I don't quite know where that's like gonna go. But whenever I get that itch of like there's something here, then I gotta full send it. This time last year, I was working on an event series that I wanted to do where I was just like, all right, well, I've seen the DJ shows. I used to run a typical DJ show event series called Offshore, which would take place on an oil rig. And I found after like the almost exactly the 2-year mark, because a lot of clubs die at the 2-year mark because they find that it again, it's like it's burnout, it's a lack of building the right foundation. I felt that I had like the right foundation to keep it going, but I was just so tired and so strained that it was too hard to run it the way that it was being done. And I was like, man, if I show up and do another one of these shows and people start feeling like I'm not in, like my heart's not in it, it's going to die on its own kind of thing. So then some things happened and that totally fell apart. And after just like kind of sitting on it for some time, I was like, man, I really miss like having something to give back to the community more than performing. In a way, I feel like whenever I perform, I'm kind of taking from the community because that's such a, like I was saying, like an ego stroking. I feel like I get so much from that it's very much like, it feels more like a look at me rather than like I'm giving back when I'm performing. So it's very like, I try to balance that with other things that I can do in the space, which for the longest time was running events. But I wanted to do something a little bit different there where I was like, I was a little bit like cynical about running another DJ focused event. And I was kind of like, I don't want to do another goddamn nightclub, I was like, people are doing them way more often, way more regular, and way better quality than I can do right now. I just can't, I don't want to say compete. That would be the wrong way to look at it, but I can't offer something that would make it compelling for people to, stake their weekend plans on. So I was like, maybe what I want to do instead is I started calling these. I made an event series called On Location, where the focus was actually going to be like, yeah, we're going to have music, we're going to have performers, but the focus is really like the environment itself. It's the world itself. And I started getting into world building. And I wanted to have these be listening events where it was basically like, I'm going to give you music, but it's some of this is going to be like ambient into into funk, into like liquid drum and bass. This stuff is meant for you to sit down, listen, like not even necessarily have conversations, but literally like engage with the music. But I don't expect anybody to be dancing. You're not going to be grooving to this stuff. And after a few events, I was kind of like sort of bringing it back to being more of like a typical DJ event. But I was like, I was really dialing into the world building aspects of it and saying like, what kind of a compelling experience can I offer that I just don't see DJ events happening? Like there's so many of these photogenic, beautiful worlds that you see in VR that sometimes you're kind of just like, I wish I could like have a music event in here because the space is amazing. And I wish I could do something like, just get everybody comfortable to sit down on some pillows and blankets and stuff. And we all just hang out, very, very much of the kind of energy that I feel like I get from Star Party, from Sushi Fair, Good Buddy. They're a fantastic event. That kind of scratched the itch originally for me to be like, or spark the idea in my mind about like, On Location could be a thing, like that kind of format of like, this isn't really a go here dance kind of event. It's more of like an introspective, like you might cry, you might feel something, and that was really special to me. I wanted to make something kind of like that. Over time, I was feeling like it's not quite landing the way that I want it to. And because I was doing so much with my very, in a good way, very busy last year, I couldn't spend the time to make a new world every month and have it be something that I was really proud of and something that would impress people. It's challenging to crank out a world every month that isn't just a total like sketch, or like totally unfinished, So I paused on that and I was kind of like, there's still something here, but there's something about this like event cadence that I'm not really like, it's not meshing with the rest of my life really well. I see this turning into another one of those, like it burns out in a terrible fizzle that nobody likes to see. So I paused on that cleanly. And then I started working more on something, granted, the names might be a little bit confusing, but back in the day, I had started doing, I kind of had this thing where, back when I was very much a guitar player, not a producer, it was really easy for me to just be noodling, right? On some Joe Satriani shit where like he'll be doing interviews and he'll just be, and he'll be chatting, guitars unplugged, his fingers are still going. And I used to be kind of like that, where it just didn't take much for me to be continuing to like emote or create, and I feel like in a way I was kind of getting that same comfortability with DJing maybe in 2022, 2023. And I had done, I think it was 2023, I had done a banger series of shows where I'd played Sly Fest and I was very, very proud with how that set turned out. I had played Shelter the second time and I was really proud with how that turned out. And I think I'd played a couple other shows like around there that I was just like, I just can't do no wrong. I am so happy that right now my inspiration is telling me that like anything I touch turns to gold. And then I ran out of bookings and I was just like, maybe I just go and DJ in a world, like just go on Blue and just start spinning and just see who show up kind of thing, just on some fun stuff, just being like, I'm just kind of chilling, I'm playing a little low key set, but I'm still buzzing. I still want to play shows and whatnot. I probably could have like bugged people to get bookings, but I was like, I don't like, at the time I had kind of a thing where like, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like putting my name out there so much that I was like getting in people's way and they were getting tired of me sort of thing. So I was kind of like, well, if people aren't reaching out, then I'm not going to pester them about it because like there are other talent, there's other talent in the space that, they need the room to breathe and they're enjoying the sunlight. Let them grow. I'm going to go do my thing. I'll get my turn when it's time. And I just kind of posted up in this world that was like a LiDAR scan of some ancient like temple entrance on one of the islands out in Greece. And I just kind of threw up OBS there and just put the camera in the world and just had it trained on me. And I didn't really plan anything. I just sort of like started freestyling it. And when I got done with it, I was like, I think this could just be a video I could put on YouTube, I guess. It looked nice, nobody showed up because I hadn't announced it or anything. I was just trying to like, get the energy out. And then I was sort of like, well, I really liked that the space added so much to it where like in the video, I'm literally like tiny. I put the camera so far away because I wanted to show the perspective of how tiny I was compared to this giant entrance. And that was it. Like it was just a sunset and a LiDAR scan. It was nothing crazy. And I called that a location set because I felt like the thing that I wanted to show people was not that it was my best set ever or anything. I was really happy with it. It was, right for the time kind of thing. And the thing that was special to me was like, I brought this experience to this space. And then I made that into something that I could give to people. And then a year later, I remembered having that same kind of energy. Close of summer, I was like, man, like I'm just buzzing. I want to do another one of those videos. I was really taken aback by Charlotte's Sunflower Island. If you've ever seen that world, just a really beautiful, like if a digital painting could be a VRChat world, that basically was it. Just a gorgeous world. All of their worlds are fantastic. But that one, I was like, I'm going to put decks on my avatar, and I'm going to set them inside the little train car in that world. And I'm just going to set the dolly system. Back then it was DX's dolly system, not the built-in one in VRChat. And I just kind of started the flyby going around. And I was like, I loved that. When I got that video finished, I was just like, I want them to play this at my funeral. It was just so good. I was just like, I feel very connected to this. I don't know what it is about like making these little videos, but there's something here. So then that's kind of partly where On Location had started as a DJ event series. Because all of those had a video that was all high production and everything with the flyovers and stuff. But after finding out that the event cadence was not really like feeling natural to me, I started making just the videos again. It was just like, I'll just go into a world that I think would be really sick to have a set played in, and started doing that. So I just posted the 8th one of those this week in a world called Blue Train, where I just saw some photos on, I think it was Blue Sky, like last week. And I was just like, that world would be so nice to like set up some decks. And I was talking with Faye about it, and I was telling her like, I'm going to put like legs on the deck so that, because I just have like the decks toy on my avatar. I can just turn it on in any world. So anywhere it can be a DJ event, you know? But I wanted it to be a little bit immersive. And then, so I put on these like legs so that it could like sit in the train and look like it was supposed to be there. And then she was kind of like, you know what you could do is like, you know, it's a train, you know, like a Japanese subway train kind of thing. So like you have the handrails and stuff. It would look more natural if literally the decks were suspended from the ceiling. And I was just like, let me try that. That's a really good idea. So I do that. Everything's clicking. I'm just like, wait, I know the exact part of the world, the exact angles for the cameras and everything. 2.5 hours later, the video's totally done, just waiting for it to render out and everything. And that's exactly the kind of like thing that, to, again, long-winded, my apologies, answering your question. Something that I'm like reaching for this year is that format I think that format is unique to me. I don't know if my approach is unique, but that's something that I haven't seen anybody else do. I would love to, well, actually I did see one guy who was like kind of doing that same sort of thing. And I'll keep their name quiet because I want to do an event with them. I think they're sick. But like this format, I want to turn it up to 11. I normally don't do those videos except maybe a couple times a year because they've always been very special, very like, I have to be feeling a certain type of way before I make that, you know? And now it's kind of like, well, I feel like it's easier for me to approach those now. I have a replicable model for it, I guess you could say. And I really enjoy it. And I think there's something there. So I think even if I'm not playing more shows in VR, I definitely want to do more VR filming. But since music is, you know, my chosen path with all of this stuff, I'm not going to go into like directing films. I'll probably just keep doing these like location set things. So my sort of plan to make it concise is I want to see how far I can push my unique hand at the VR filmmaking stuff and have that married to the music aspect of, you know, what I do in this space. I want to try to turn that into like, when people go to like, you know, YouTube and they might like Google VRChat, or like they're going looking for music, they stumble across my stuff and they're like, well, this isn't a video essay yet again complaining about something in VRChat. Or they're like, what is this like anime VTuber thing? What is this anime girl thing? And then they see me doing the DJ thing and they're just like, okay, the video is weird, but and they've got an avatar on, looks like sort of a VTuber, but they're not totally getting that I'm a VTuber thing. They're kind of having the same question that you did of being like, is this VTubing or is this something else? But then they're like, but the mix is hot. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that turns into like its own thing. So we'll see a lot more of those this year.
That's what I wanted to actually
bring up to camera.
That's what I wanted to really kind of touch upon too, because as I was doing my research about ClydeMachine, is just that video so happenly got posted a few days ago or just even a day ago, and I'm sitting there going, man, I gotta check this out. And And what I got to give you kudos, and I got to say all the positive things, the stuff that will tickle your brain a little bit, was like some of the things that I really enjoyed about it was it's not just a regular set. It's not like you were to do a live set in here. Some of it has been kind of growing in the past couple of years, where certain groups, what they'll do is they'll record it on their own end if they're going to be streaming it up on Twitch or any other platform that they choose to. That way they can use it for more promotional materials later, or catch an idea of the crowd or whatever they want to do with it, and then you could repost it and just be like, this is me, this is what I've done, okay, cool, let's go. But the way that you were able to kind of film it, and the way that, like, it makes sense because there's not a lot of involvement to begin with. And I think a lot of people, they take that out of context, especially when they want to do social media or want to promote some of the stuff that they're just like, well, maybe I'm not skilled enough, or maybe I'm looking for all those angles or all those cool effects and stuff like that, but I don't know, or I don't have enough time to learn and do it. And what's so simple about that particular video is you have some of the flybys. You're sitting on a chair. No spoilers, but spoilers is literally like 5 minutes in. And you get up from the chair. You're doing your thing. You see the decks. You go under the decks to get to the decks.
Yeah.
and it blew my mind because I was waiting. I was skipping every so often, like you do. I was waiting for like the same dance or routine or bop up and down or camera angle that you would repeat. But I was surprised to find that everything was original. So throughout the entire hour of music, it wasn't again, it wasn't just a whole hour mix of just like B-roll. You were doing something different. You were hyping up a crowd that wasn't there. And you were making it a vibe.
Authentic, man.
I'll also say too, and we'll get into it a little bit too, just because it is just something that I always love asking about. It is just like, what's your take on the genre? But like, how difficult can it be? Like, I'm not saying that people should be mimicking your idea of making these style of videos. I would love to see an influx of it. I would just love to see a whole bag of it. I'd like to just go to YouTube and see the algorithm just be like, here are 15 people that you need to see because the videos are looking that cool. Does it take a lot of time to record all this, and as well as the editing part?
Well, I definitely pride myself on the authentic aspect of it. It is very tempting to just slap a lot of B-roll into it, because the reality is, if you want to do multiple camera flybys, I'm sure somebody's got this figured out, but I still use DX's camera path. Like, shout out that dude. Absolutely love that stuff. Like, I tried the VRChat built-in dolly system, and there's just like, there's little stuff about it that I don't really like, but I got really, really comfortable with using camera path. And that only gets you one POV though. Like, you literally only get one rail. You can't have it jump around or nothing. At least my version. I don't know if he's updated or anything, but the consequence of that is that if you want to have a video that has a compelling, like, it's just you and mixing, which I don't, I'm not the type of person, I'm sure a lot of people are like this, that like will stay engaged with a fixed POV camera. And even if it's on a dolly system, well, I don't want to see that same thing go around all hour. You know, I want to see some transitions, right? So of course the temptation is present to like just slap in some B-roll, do like a quick, like, okay, here's part of what I was doing, and then just copy it over. But if there's one thing I hate when it comes to art, it's inauthenticity. I absolutely hate fake stuff in terms of like, and I don't mean like pre-recording or anything like that. I have my opinions about that, that I think it's absolutely like necessary, and it's there for a reason, kind of like the sync button, right? A lot of people have their opinions about what DJ aids you use, kind of thing, like DJ assist, I mean. The temptation being there is kind of like, it's easy for me to kind of hand wave that away though, because what you found was the evidence of how I had gone into that world. I had done all the shots for like setting it up and then, the outro shots. And then the rest of it was the actual, like, I'm live mixing this right now. If I flub up a transition, you'll literally see it, and you can sometimes, like, I try to hide it, but like sometimes you can see me like fixing the camera a little bit. But then to get like the extra angles, because I'd mentioned like you can only get one angle when you're using a dolly system, at least the way that I'm doing it. That means that I literally have to go back and be like jamming out to the same set over again. And what I do is to make sure it's the same energy being carried through the whole video, I play the live mix, I film what it was like for me to perform that out, just straight off of OBS, straight out of Tractor. As soon as it's done, save the video in OBS, immediately swap around the cameras to other angles that I wanted to do. And while I'm still full sweaty, grab another yerba mate can, because I've always got to be caffeinated, get my water. And then minutes later, I'm playing the mix back. And then basically like, just boogieing to it the second time. So you are still seeing like, basically like my recreation of what I was doing to an extent. And there is some like, what do you call it? Like the Skrillexing thing of like, you're just going to grab a knob and then let go of it. Like I ain't doing nothing when I'm doing that. But for the VR aspect of it, like this is, that is part of the art form, is that you're really trying to sell it. Like sometimes I'll be like, singing along to the song or whatever. It's like, these are all showmanship things. That's something that I feel like a lot of DJs in this space, even when they get good at just mixing, have their own style, their showmanship doesn't come through. And maybe it's because they don't look back at what they, how they look whenever they perform, or they're just not like that concerned about it. But man, does it kill the vibe if you see a DJ and they're not obviously into their own music. So when I'm doing those films, like I would definitely not say like that the second angle shots are me like faking it. They're literally me jamming out because I'm so jazzed that I'm getting to hear this mix for the first time without being worried about doing the train wrecks and stuff. And then as soon as that angle is done, usually by then I figure like I have enough to go like make the full formatted video, in the past I used to do more angles, and I found that it takes so much for you to keep up that same energy and be authentic when you keep getting different angles of you, like, recreating all of your motions while you're DJing and being jazzed to the music and stuff. And the last thing I would want to do is put together a video like that where I'm literally like pushing through to the end and I'm pretending to be into it. Because even in the avatar, man, people can tell if you're not into the music. And if you're just like, if something's bothering you, they're going to see that, that's so like if you're 3 hours or 2.5 hours into taking like your third camera angle to make this video, that's not even going to be usable footage. So to say like that it's challenging to do, I don't think it is. I think it's really a matter of like you have to have some level of vision of like what you want it to look like, but you don't even have to do the multiple camera angles thing. Like I personally love that aspect because again, it's very engaging that every minute or minute and a half, you get a slightly different look of the, of the environment and who's performing and everything. And like you were saying, I would love to see people like take that same format and do it better than me, do it more often than me. Just send that. Shout out Mojo Peg. I know you appreciate the camera work on things. The reality is it's not terribly hard. I think the most tricky aspect of it is just making sure that you don't have any embarrassing tracking issues kind of for the squares, because like people who don't know this space and aren't going to be very patient with it, but are curious, they'll give you enough time to make your case kind of thing. But if your hip goes flying off while you're DJing,
sure,
then that's just going to be like, why did you bother uploading that, And you can ruin a whole mix with that.
Yeah, and a lot of people also forget to realize that, like, that there's a reason for a final product and a final mix at the end of it all, too. That, if you do see some inconsistencies, I mean, we talk about it from time to time where we have some guests in here. I mean, even Ray Factory ended up doing it a little bit while they were here last week, where one of the guests, their hip flew up and they were folded in. And And the thing about our program is it's VRCDJ
Saw
Live.
that.
It's live. We're doing this live. Obviously, if you're watching it on YouTube, you're missing out on most all Thursdays. We sit down, we do this live, and that's the best aspect that I believe for those people that like the live part, where they can be a part of the program as opposed to just watching it too. But you do want a polished product. If you're going to make a music video, you're going to make sure that all those angles are tight and everything is on time. And at the same time, you don't want to see all the messed up stuff. That's what the bloopers are for, and I'm not saying that we need to see ClydeMachine bloopers, but at the same time, maybe we want to see some ClydeMachine bloopers coming up. But that's equally important too, is just like understanding your brand, understanding how you want to produce said brand. And maybe it's not just the ClydeMachine brand in general. I mean, just being able to showcase all of the things that that you do in here that's passionate, as well as your performance. You're going to want to be able to show what is good about virtual reality. Mind you, you do have the people that are just like, yeah, what about the memes? What about the broken avatars? What about timing out? What about all this other stuff? What about the realism of it all? And there's content for that, sure, but there's also a way to be able to showcase, not to even go into the filmography, the cinematography in here of all those clubs in here. They're really kicking a lot of ass when it comes to that. But just being able to add that extra element to performances in here is so unique. Now, without going into too much detail into this, I would say the style that you perform in here, the genre that you perform, obviously drum and bass, some liquid drum and bass. I feel like
love liquid out here.
Yeah,
man.
I was gonna say within Blue Train, like it makes a lot of sense because the environment definitely shows this like this fluidity thing. I was gonna say liquidity, but that's a brand. This fluidity of how liquid drum and bass kind of gets melded into it, and being able to find a world that goes with that, it works very well. Now, if anybody were to go and replicate that, obviously they're going to want to have the flyby camera views again based on the scene that they're in. But I can't help but feel like if somebody were to like mimic your style, and let's just say it's like heavy metal, or it would work. I think it would work very well with disco. But before we get into that sort of stuff, with your experience, we're going to take it down a couple notches. With your experience, especially coming in here since 2020 and where we are now, you've obviously been able to see the fluctuation of the drum and bass scene in here, as well as doing liquid drum and bass in general. Where do you see it kind of going? Is it still as popular as you believed it to be?
Ooh, I remember a time when it was exceptionally rare to hear D&B in here, and then it, I don't want to say like it had its heyday, but it definitely like got so popular that most people would just tune it out whenever you would go and play it because there was just so much of it, and people would say, I don't feel like going to another D&B show tonight. And I'm just like, wow, we really come a long ways, huh? Because for a time I was full sending the like turn your brain off, just rage as hard as you can, jump up and all that. I was doing that for a little bit, and that can be fun from time to time. But these days it can be fun from time to time. But my personal view is that I have been paying a lot attention to how much liquid drum and bass has been coming into the space, especially with folks like UMC from AdLoud, who I played for a couple of times. Fairy's played for them a couple of times. They're basically, I don't want to say like exclusively liquid events, but they really mainline that, and I absolutely love that. And to me, it's a very magical genre of being able to communicate a lot of emotion while still being very danceable, right? You can have happy ones, you can have sad ones. I've had some very pissed off liquid D&B mixes. You can find those. Like the third or fourth location set was literally just, I'm pissed off, this is all liquid, and you can still feel it, And, I've had other ones where it's literally like, my heart is so light because I'm in love, and the year is just so it's turning a positive direction, and like nothing can go wrong right now. I'm just on cloud 9.5 kind of thing, like that, and it's still liquid drum and bass. That kind of diversity and the emotion that can be conveyed with it is why I mainline it so much. And I suppose now is actually a pretty good time to tease a little bit. I was going to announce it on the show, but the announcement hasn't come out just yet. But I do have a new development to my producer journey that I'm basically just full diving liquid drum and bass now, because I had a liquid drum and bass song signed to Baptism Resonances a year or two ago, maybe. Shout out those fine folks. They were fantastic to work with. But next week on Monday, I've got another liquid drum and bass song that I produced a year ago, maybe more. And I'm very, very proud of it. I cannot wait for it to come out. It's coming out on a record label that I very much respect. I play their artists literally all the time, so it's super sick that they took a chance on that. But that's again, like, it kind of feeds into the whole, like, well, if I'm producing liquid, if I'm making location set videos, if I'm playing them in worlds where, like you were saying, like, the world just perfectly matches with the sound and the energy that you're bringing, like, it's just such a wonderful, like, thing. It's a cake that you just want to eat, you know. It's just every piece of it, every ingredient just goes together so beautifully. So to that end, I feel like I'm very much like disconnected in how the lion's share of the drum and bass sound is being experienced in VR, because I've been kind of like trying to do my part to nurture the liquid side of things. And I'm really happy to see that there are so many performers. Like, last year I was trying to put together an event specifically for liquid, and I was just like, yeah, I'm sure I'll get a couple, and it'll be like, that'll be all the DJs I can find. And I found less than I thought I would. I found like 2, and then I started asking friends, being like, could you play liquid? You know, like, you know how to play D&B, and I respect you as a DJ. Could you? You know, and it was like, that's a bad look. You know, it's like, it's just so early on for it. And fast forward to today, and I'm finding out more and more people are like, every now and then they'll toss off and play a liquid D&B set, and I'm just like, no way, let me hear it, you know, like, we could do a thing together later, you know. And of course, AdLad with UMC is like making sure that new performers are always getting a chance to play specifically a liquid friendly event. I should say liquid flavored event, but that's I think that is, I don't want to say like that's the new hot genre, the new cool genre though.
I will say, you know, I went to Liquidity in 2024 with the whole ragtag team of people from VRChat. We went to go do that. And for me, I enjoyed drum and bass. At the time, I was doing a lot of learning, so I was in the back with my Spotify, my Shazam up, like, you know, getting in all the tunes, being like, okay, they're playing this a lot, and oh, this sounds cool, and I'm going to put this in my catalog. But what I found extremely amazing to start your day is towards at the beginning of the day, they start performing at like 11 a.m., give or take. So between 11 a.m. and maybe noonish, they'll have some liquid drum and bass DJs up there just kind of setting the mood and easing people into the morning and easing people into partying for like 9-10 hours at a time. But it's just like, it's a comfortable, like you will catch me on the floor with a bacon, egg, and cheese on a croissant, just kind of busting the move.
That's what I'm
Cup
talking
of coffee
about.
on the head and just listening to liquid drum and bass, kind of vibing, doing whatever. But being able to understand that concept in here, it's a flavor, like you were saying, that not everybody's on yet, but at the same time, you feel comfortable the way that you perform it and the way that you present yourself, the way you perform it. And I'm not saying that you're the guy that does the liquid drum and bass, but you know, if anybody were to think of someone that would do it, it would probably be you, such as me with like top 40.
I sure hope so, man.
You know,
I would love for that to be the thing, because I feel so connected to it. I feel like that's the, because every now and then, you know, people, you know, are getting familiar with my artistry, and they're like, well, what do you play? And I'm just like, well, I'll give them all the genres that I can play depending on what they're going to book for, but it's always going to be the heavier stuff. And not saying that I don't appreciate the heavier stuff, but like, I would play 3 liquid sets before I would play 1 bass music set, you know?
so let me ask you this then. How comfortable would you be if they said that because liquid drum and bass has a more mellow sound, that you would be a good opener?
Oh, I would absolutely jump on that. And that kind of leans into a little bit of like my performance ethos whenever I am on lineups, is that the thing that I always told performers whenever I was booking them for offshore years ago was, we will make sure that you play whatever slot is comfortable. You guys talk it amongst yourselves. If you need to swap, like don't feel that we need to be like an authority over here. And the one thing that we ask you to do, we're not going to tell you what genre to play. I want you to bring your A game. Bring what you do best. That's what people are going to want to see. And we always had amazing sets. We always had amazing performers. The only problems that we would have were like tech problems, you know, of like internet dying, that sort of thing. We never had a problem of like, oh man, we shouldn't have booked this guy. Jesus Christ, you know, thankfully. So kind of as part of that, I felt that kind of like dovetailed into how I kind of think of like lineups is like, I do pay attention if I'm in like a headliner slot, which isn't, you know, the last slot of the night necessarily, but it's usually like, depending on when a show starts and the kind of crowd that you can expect there and what else is happening that night, you know, if there's going to be like some people at the doors, but then like it gets really popping at sets 2, 3, and 4, and then by 5 people are like, they're too drunk or they're ready to go to another event, or they were here waiting for another event to open. And that's just how the game goes, you know. That's VRChat raving, baby. Like, you've got so many shows that you can go to. You're not going to get everybody like full energy from open to close at the same club. So that means that at least for me as a performer, the way I look at it is like, everyone shares in like supporting the community. And if you're going to play an opening slot, never look at that as like, damn it, you know what I mean? Like, and or like if you're going to ever play the last slot and close it out, like, don't be pulling up your menu looking at instance numbers, like seeing like, oh, it's starting to drop, I'm really killing the vibe. It's like, well, it's probably not you, man. It's probably like 2 a.m. on the East Coast, and those folks are like so drunk they don't even know you're up here, you know. We all share in the responsibility in a way of like supporting the community. So like, if I was specifically selected for being booked, doesn't matter the slot, being booked for a show, that means that somebody's taking a chance on me. And even though I know my history, they might not know it, their crowd might not know my history, and I might just be another name on the lineup. And that gives me an opportunity to introduce a new crowd to my sound. It gives the club an opportunity to show that they know how to put together a good lineup. So in my view, and I've always kind of had this from even back in the like rock band days of like kind of having an idea of like the flow of the night has to be kind of paid attention to. Maybe this is a bit of an older take, but I've always been one of those people, like, especially when it comes to DJing, when you start off the night, you kind of do have a job to play. When you're the headliner, you also, and I say headliner again, like, I mean, like when you're in the slot that's going to get the most energy from the crowd, that's going to get the most focus and the most cameras out and all that, you know, that's how I look at that. You kind of have a job to do. You are representing the club to an extent, you know. You are representing yourself. You're representing the community to the people that end up seeing the clips on TikTok later of being like, whoa, this is what VRChat raving looks like. Well, the job of the first person of the night is to make sure that people are getting warmed up and actually getting into and getting that energy out. If it's, you know, a typical dancing DJ event. So if I get to come into an event and people are, they're aware that I play Liquid, and it's kind of like, well, that's not going to be like the most like boppin' sound, but it might be perfect for an opening slot. I would do that to the best of my ability, and I'd be very thankful that that happened. So that's my take on opening slots for sure, especially for Liquid. Like, it's got its place, man. Like, that's a beautiful place to put it, especially before like harder sets. Like, you can definitely do.
And especially moving forward with a lot of the DJs in here, they're always looking for either a headlining set or they want to be somewhere. They always have, they want to set a priority of being in the second or third, or at the same time, they're also kind of butting heads up against like, is their music, are they playing the music for them, or are they playing the music for the people that are there? And are the people there enjoy the music that they're performing? And that's kind of another one of those headspace moments of being like, am I playing music for them, or am I playing music for me? At the same time, you have to learn a little bit of both, especially in the environment that you're in. Speaking of which, we are coming on the other side of the hour here on VRCDJLIVE. We got a shorter bit of time here with ClydeMachine, but I kind of wanted to touch upon, I know, listen, 2 hours go by really fast. didn't touch about a lot of the things that we wanted to touch
hours? It's already been 2.
Yeah, it's already been
like you
2
said, we got
hours.
a lot to go over.
That's what I'm saying. But especially because we're talking about this specific topic and the fact that, again, you're using a lot of your downtime to not just take opportunities in VRChat to perform, but you're looking to make some more YouTube multimedia sort of stuff. What are your bookings looking like right now? Are people proactively trying to get you on a lineup? Are you trying to get up on different lineups? Are you feeling the pressure of new DJs coming in, like being hungry right now because they are starting to learn about that? What's that process looking like for you right now?
Well, I will say it definitely ebbs and flows when it comes to bookings, and everyone should expect that. Everyone should expect that. Like, there's going to be times where you're the bee's knees, and then there's other times where they forget that you're around, or at least it'll feel like that. They probably didn't. It's probably just that, like you're alluding to. We have such a deluge of new performers, talented new performers, new talent coming in all the time, and they get to have they get to have the first bite a lot of times because, well, they're new, they're excited, they're the ones with the obvious fresh passion. Like, there's a reason that there's kind of a thing where every time I have a buddy who leaves VR for a long time because they're like out on deployment or something, and then they come back in 6 months later, I have to kind of like when I wait for them to say, and they always say it like they're like, man, there's a lot of new names, a lot of new faces. Like, it's like, yeah, it rotated again. I always say that it rotates, where it's basically like, it's like a turnstile, right? It's like a revolving door. There's some people that'll stay in it, but like I said, like, time and stamina are things that are very finite, and they have to get balanced out with the rest of your life, which also takes time and stamina. Not everybody can stay in it. Some people can't afford to stay in it. Very sad truth, but if you can't figure out how to make it sustainable, you're not going to last. And, well, there's a couple more DJs ready to take your place, kind of thing. That's always been true in the music industry. It sure as hell is true here. And it's not on any competitive thing either. It's literally like, we're all passionate about our art. We all want to bring it out, to new ears, new eyeballs. So if you're not, if the seat on the bus isn't taken by you, it's going to be taken by the next person, right? Again, it's not competition. It's literally just like, there are plenty of other artists in the space that also want to put their stuff forward. We all have to figure out how to fit together. And the challenge of that is, like, you have to know when, like, it's, I don't want to say like it's your cycle necessarily, because I have a feeling like, I think I was telling you this previously, like, I feel like there's a lot of things that are just, it's literally a sine wave, like my bookings, the number of my bookings are going to be like this for a time, and then they're going to dip. And then people are going to be like, man, you haven't been around. And I'll be like, yeah, I've been out doing stuff, But like, that's how it goes, is like, you're going to have your heyday to an extent, and then it's going to dip, and that's healthy. It's good for the community, because, like you're saying, are you playing the music for you, or are you doing it for the community? And there's always going to be some balance of that. You have to be doing it some for yourself. Otherwise, you're not into it. But if you do it entirely for yourself, you're going to kill the crowds and not even notice it, because you're too busy looking at yourself in the mirror, having fun. And it's like, come on, So, so for me, like, the ebb and flow is always constant. And right now, unironically, I will say, like, if anybody is interested in booking, please get in touch with me now, because I've got, this month's just about done, but the one that we're coming into, that one's full. The next month after that would be March. I've got some pretty big stuff going on there. My weekends are definitely running out. And I have travel that I need to do because I want to see my wife. She don't live close enough just yet, but there's a lot going on for me. But I always find that it's a boon whenever I do get a break from the bookings, because it does let me have an easier time to do the filmmaking, do the other creative stuff, and most importantly, when I'm not on the stage, I get to go just enjoy people's sets. And I love doing that, because I get to find out who's funny, who's witty, who's with it, who's bringing a new sound, who's bringing a new energy. Like, I want to say, like, I was aware of, like, Millie from the Pug, formerly, now just goes by Millie. I want to say that, like, I knew of them like a year ago, maybe. And I was kind of just like, or actually longer than that ago. I was going to book them for offshore once, and then it just never worked out. And wouldn't you know it, like, I just ended up like going to an event that was their birthday party, and come to find out, like, they're a crazy ass producer, they're a vocalist, and they are fucking lighting it up in this space. Like, they are doing crazy shit. And if I was too busy, stroking my own ego, getting bookings all the time, or begging to play places, and, just like always trying to like be on the grind and do the brand stuff, like, you lose out on experiencing the magic of the community that you loved when you first came into it. You got to balance that out. So like, whenever I've got a lull in bookings, just means I get to go do other cool stuff and appreciate other people, find out, new performers and all that. It has its time.
So, kind of just to wrap things up here, would you kind of say that would be a good word of advice for anybody that is coming into the scene right now, is just sitting back, taking a moment, and being able to balance things out when it comes into the space? Because the trickiest part about our space is that when you come in here, you want to perform all these different things, but as a DJ, there's so many other things that have to be put into effect that you didn't actually think about. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of videos. James Hype has a ton of YouTube videos about his life and how it's too busy for him, and he's got to take a plane to a helicopter to a thing, and he's like, I don't get enough downtime, I don't eat enough real food in my day, and stuff like that. And people, they're like, no, that ain't gonna happen to me. But then as soon as it does, they're just like, how do I really feel about that? So as we're leaning into our rapid fire questions towards the end of the program, what is your kind of overall word of advice for the new kids that are coming here trying to test the scene and test to see if DJing is going to be for them?
That one, I'm going to hit you with an easy one then. Spend more time giving than you take back. And by that, I mean, like, consider how people are seeing and experiencing you as an artist, not just you as a person. Because, of course, everybody, like, new blood is always going to be interesting. If you're funny, they're always going to appreciate your new funniness. If you're personable, they're going to appreciate that. But if you come in and you want to perform, that's cool. Remember that you are another DJ in the space. Others had to earn their spot to be able to get onto lineups. And maybe you've got buddies who run events and all that. You have an easy in. That's cool. But don't squander it. Don't think that just because you played a show somewhere to a full lobby, that's the one true mark of validation. It's like, well, you are still an artist, which means that there is a level of quality to your craft. And if you just started, like, you've got to practice. So nobody wants to hear that. But the reality is, like, the way I would say it is, like, look at what you can do for the community that's going to get people to really love what you're doing and want to support you. That way you're not having to ask for bookings. Like, you're not elbowing your way in. You don't have to. People are literally just like, I want to spotlight you because I love what you do. You have a unique thing to bring to the space. I want to see what you do with it. Yeah.
That seems very valid too, especially when we are going in there. I think a lot of people forget about the confidence factor of it, being like, well, this is what I get to offer, and this is what I get to present, and this is what makes me unique. And I think a lot of people can't understand they're unique, and being able to just sit down and be like, okay, how do I kind of shape that up? Let's hit you with some rapid fire questions as we're kind of getting into the last couple of minutes of VRCDJ Live. And what are some artists that you're listening to currently that are new, and who are some people that you are listening to on repeat?
So I would have to say for artists that I'm like paying attention to and listening to, not really new, but ones that I admit I didn't like pay enough attention to earlier, and I'm really proud to call them people that I've been able to either spend time with or just get familiar with their craft. Obviously, I mentioned Millie. Also, Chill Phil, love that dude, class act.
I meant on Spotify. Sorry, I mean you can definitely listen to people. Or just online. I mean, we'll get to the VRChat DJ ones in a moment, but
okay.
I think people want to know what's on your Spotify list. That's basically it.
Let me see what is on my Spotify list. I do listen to a lot of Liquid artists. So I've been listening to Serenity. They played UMC like a month ago, I want to say. Absolutely fantastic artist. I've been listening to a lot of ALB. I'm trying to think of what label they work with, but fantastic artist. LSB, lots of the three letter acronym performer names. These are all Liquid drum and bass artists. They're absolutely fantastic though. Alpha Rhythm. There's another one that I'm forgetting, but those are kind of like the ones that I've got in heavy rotation right now. And then any of their contemporaries, man, I'm just always flipping through, new artists that I can bring into my sets. I do listen to, like, when I'm not listening to like DJ music, I listen to a lot of rap.
Awesome.
I love Danny Brown. He's got a new record out. I've been like meaning to make time to listen to, but I listened to a couple of singles, and he's still with it. He's still pushing such an interesting sound with what he's doing. He's kind of like, he's starting to go. He went from like, he had his very like, you can play this shit in the club kind of rap with the very trap beats kind of sound. When like Migos was first getting like super, super popular. And then he went into like this really crazy, like there's obviously some stuff troubling him in his life, to put it lightly. And it came through in his music, and it was just so authentic and so gritty. And so like there was a certain dirt to it that you don't hear with music nowadays, because it's just so polished and everything. And now he's like starting to take that and then go into like kind of like more of a pop direction, but like I still hear like his core sound in there. Absolutely love that. I've always been a fan of Future, especially a lot of the stuff that like, doesn't top the playlist. A lot of the ones that just weren't like he's just had so many singles. I don't know which ones are singles or not, but like the ones that just don't have a lot of plays, I absolutely love digging back through a lot of that old stuff from like Wizard and basically when he was like still in the like the terrible label contract that had him like pumping out albums like crazy kind of thing. He was making some bangers even as like sort of like the B-side songs for that. Really enjoyed that kind of stuff. There's a lot of names that I'm forgetting because I tried to like flip through a lot of stuff. I do like, for example, I have like a yearly thing where I'll go back and I'll listen through a lot of Mac Miller, like rest in peace, that guy. I grew up with so much of his music. Like there's just so much of like, there's parts of my life I can remember because of certain albums, so I go back and I just step through the whole discography. So those are the names I gotta drop.
I mean, it's also important to be able to kind of flip back in time and remember, because you'll hit a song that you remember some of the lyrics to, and you're just like, why is this still tucked into my brain? Like, why is it still? Well, why do I have room for this, but not room to figure out what I need at the grocery store? Speaking about Chill Phil, we all love Chill Phil, obviously. Who are your top 3 DJs in VRChat that we get to see?
Well, then I guess I sort of already betrayed that.
I was trying to set you up for that, but I'm trying to find a way to rewrite that question, because the last time I asked that question, a guest was like, I don't listen to Spotify. And I'm like, I mean, what else do you listen to? Like, you don't have to be one to listen. Everyone just knows Spotify. We just kind of go with that.
That's so funny. That's the sign of the times right there.
Yeah.
But in the DJ space, obviously I was very impressed with getting familiar with the artistry of Millie and that of Chill Phil, especially getting to know him a little bit better, because we've always been circling the fishbowl, and then we got to chat like properly last year, and at the time we were playing very like similar music, and we got booked for a lineup. Oddly enough, it was actually Ferry who had booked us for that. And she remember, I remember she had mentioned like she specifically said like, I want to make sure that Phil gets on this lineup, and I want you on the lineup at the same, like for the same night. And then we ended up playing at like back to back of each other, not back to back performance, but literally like his slot and then mine. Or it might have been mine then his, because like I cleared the room and then he brought him back kind of thing. But maybe I'm misremembering that. I don't know. But absolutely love that dude. He's just got such a crazy energy. I think we were actually meant to do a back to back, and we just haven't made it work yet. So I hope Phil sees this. And then last, I gotta say, I gotta shout out my buddy Lumina, my buddy AG. He performs as Lumina, but everybody just calls him AG. He was nominated in the most recent run of the VRCAs for one of the top 3 DJ performers. So like super well deserved. I will say that I haven't like pushed him into like, hey, I'm going to play this event and you have to play on this lineup. Because for the longest time, I would pull him onto lineups like that. Just be like, instead of just like, would you like to play my show? It would be like, hey, need you on this show. And he would just be like, okay. And then we would always do the thing where like, we would close out the show, absolutely kill it. We're all drunk. And then we would go pop up somewhere and he would go live again, play a totally different genre, go for like an hour and a half. I was just like, you are a monster. I should call you Aging Machine because you're more machine than me. So those are my 3 picks.
That seems pretty valid. I think a lot of people need to take that advice too, especially that it's not even just a matter that you're popping up at a bar and you're like, there's decks and they're free. And I mean, you want to ask, make sure that they're comfortable, but at the same time, like, it's kind of your opportunity while you're sitting there doing the thing. So you might as well get at it while you do. Before we get on out of here,
like there's a chance to send it, and then there's a chance to, you know, demonstrate some level of, you know, requisite respect and politeness, because we're all just people, you know. Even if you got a brand to put forward, you're not a corporate suit, or at least you better not be.
Dude,
like,
I love
we're all gonna remember each other.
I love sitting up at the bar and just enjoying myself, and not even just playing the role of I'm a VRChat DJ, but more of a well, Rob's not doing a thing, Rob go do a thing, and I'll be like, all right, I guess, and then I'll just kind of go up there and kill it. You know, and it's not even just a matter of me looking for a thing to do. It's just I'll just kind of go up there and just absolutely kill it. Before we get on out of here, where can we find ClydeMachine on the internet?
Easy clap. You can find everything that there is to find about me on ClydeMachine.com, including my past sets, my past released music, both the stuff that's been signed as well as like the free downloads. You can find my socials on there, but you know, you'll find them because I'm too loud. Nobody can shut me up. You will hear from me eventually. And then of course, don't tell nobody, but a little secret for the chat. There's actually a secret DJ set archive. It's definitely not on fansly.com/ClydeMachine. There's reasons it's on there, and it's definitely not the ones you're thinking of.
Oh boy. I mean, obviously you're gonna want to go and check it out.
You'll see what's there.
Watch it just be a bunch of memes or something.
Right,
yeah. Obviously with
it's just copyright strike stuff. But you know, it's got its place.
Just gotta do it for the clicks, right? Just gotta get it there for the clicks.
It was such a long story. It's not even funny to tell, but I mean, whenever people are like, does Clyde have a Fansly? Because there's a group that says Clyde does not have a Fansly, which sometimes I'll put above my head, forget about it. We'll go to like drink, you know, out in something after a show. And then people start asking like, what does that mean? And I'm just like, oh shit. I don't want to have to tell the story again. But of course I don't say that part. But whenever I'm just like, oh shit, and I go to change it real quick, they're all just like, oh, he's selling feet pics.
Yeah. I called you Clyde Feet Machine, right?
Somebody has called me that before.
Did we not go over this literally 2 minutes before I started to go live? Are you putting your feet up on the table?
I would never do that.
Oh,
this sounds like something I would do.
I'm so glad that we haven't hit our 500 follower count yet on YouTube. But hey,
we could cut a deal. You know, well, I got quality goods. The stuff that people might want. You know.
Well, that's the end of VRCDJLIVE, and glad to have everybody here. Of course,
you gotta give the people what they want.
Is watch the thumbnail for this video being like, what do people want? Feet pics on VRCDJLIve? Oh man, I'm gonna be ruined because of you. This is the last episode. Clyde, thank you so much for coming on, dude. I'm so glad that we were able to kind of talk a lot about our community, and it'd be really glad to have you back on to talk more about some of the stuff that we just haven't actually been able to touch.
Well, let me know anytime, but it's been really good chatting with you.
Hell yeah. And again, that's going to do it for us for VRCDJLIVE tonight on this week and as well as for January, but don't hold your breath for too long because we are going to announce who's going to be on for February after I talk to you a little bit about all the sorts of things that you get to experience with this program. Of course, after we're done here, we're going to be able to post all of our highlights and videos up on YouTube at VRCDJLIVE. You can take a look at all of the past interviews that we've had, as well as some helpful remotes. We do some live remotes. We got a couple of live remotes coming up this year as well, as that schedule's starting to kind of pile up. We are also up on Instagram, so you can check us out there and be able to push what we do, what you do, and what we do in the virtual space at VRCDJLIVE. Of course, you can take a look at all of the added photos and schedules up on our socials as well, up on X and Blue Sky, which, to be honest, drum roll please. This is February's schedule as the people that will be joining us on VRC DJ Live starting next week. We're going to be sitting down with Captivated to kind of break down a lot of what they've been doing in the virtual reality scene and get to know them a little bit more. Followed after that, an actual a recommendation to have on our show. We're going to be talking with was it Backout Boy of Garage 30 Radio.
Backout Boy.
Yeah, who's just absolutely killing it on the SoundCloud device, talking about VRChat DJs and being able to promote them for such a long time too. So we're going to be talking with Garage 30 Radio. We all will be taking a break after that because I have a thing to do in Las Vegas, which is a very fun thing. But we're going to be talking with, I believe it's DJ Sayora, coming to join us in the VRC DJ Live studios, talking about all sorts of stuff, DJing in the scene, and what DJing is life in New Zealand. Whoa, who would have ever thought that we would be in a worldwide area of virtual reality to be able to talk all sorts of stuff. Of course, you'll be able to see this and more up on our X and Blue Sky at VRC DJ Live. We got a link tree as well, just in case you have some DJ friends and members of our community that would love to join us here on the program as well, because we would love to hear that you're interested in being on the program. So, for ClydeMachine and the VRC DJ Live staff behind the glass, I'm Rob Roman. Thank you guys for coming by for VRC DJ Live, and we will see you next time. Bye.